Hey, I'm Adam Post, publisher of College of the Dead, publisher of more than 1,000 independent comic books. How did I do that? Well, I spent 30 years doing it. You want to hear a song about it? Here it goes. No, no songs. All right. But today, I'm going to answer this question that I get a lot. And this is something you need to know about. I get, hey, ComicsGate, I don't know why they're calling me that, all right? They just do sometimes. Hey, Adam Post, how much does it cost to print comic books? Why do people ask me this question? For one, they just want to know. Uh, they're curious. And for two, sometimes you get people who are publishing their own comics. You know, a lot of people are thinking about publishing their own comics. A lot of people are considering publishing comics. So I want to answer that question. It's important to know. You need to plan out your numbers. You need to plan out your costs. If you're thinking about publishing anything, it's important. Comics, books, whatever it might be. This is a printer I can recommend. I don't work with this printer, at least not as of today. So they seem like good people. And I've known a couple of our publishing buddies from ComicsGate who've used them. They've recommended them well. And ComicsGate is just an independent publisher network of comic book self-publishers. Little guys kicking butt and taking names. But Mixam has a great pricing calculator. Pricing calculators are really important because you get to understand and work through a lot of different ideas and see, hey, what would it cost if I was doing a 48-page color comic book and I wanted to print 100 of them or 10,000 of them or 1,000 of them? And this company, Mixam, has a very helpful calculator online. I'm going to give you the link for it. You can see here it's just mixam.com/comic books. This is their United States site. They also have a site that's UK based. They also have a site that's Australia based and Canada based. So if you're in any of those countries or near any of those countries, you can go to that local site. They give you an option at the top to select sites by country. See, this is USA, these are some other countries. And they'll give you pricing that's consistent with your whatever, your financial instrument over there, your currency, as well as operations that they have in different countries, because they do actually have operations in different countries they can print from. So here's what you got. The first thing you do is you put in the number of copies you're thinking of printing. Now, these guys can print as little as one. So if you want to print a proof based on a PDF, they can print one proof copy for you. It's a little expensive, okay, but hey, you're just printing one of them. What do you expect? They can print 10, they can print 100, they can print, 25. So this is based on a 48-page color comic book, color covers, and color interiors with this paperweight choice. So if you were going to try to publish these comics and resell them, you're going to be doing at least 100 copies. So if you're thinking in terms of 100 copies, a full color comic, now these guys organize it by sides. Why sides? I've talked to them about it. It just makes them happy at Mixam. It means the front and the back. So a 48-page color comic needs 48 sides. So it needs 24 two-sided pages to equal a total of 48 sides. Plus, you want a cover. You could make it self-cover, and look at that. You save $14. Or you could be a gentleman and do a real cover, right? That's what you should be doing. Now, these guys also have options for black and white. Let's say you want to do it as a black and white comic book. It's going to be cheaper. See, you click grayscale, bing, boom, black and white. You could also mark this black and white. That's where it says throughout, they mean covers. Okay, they're not perfect, but their numbers are good and they stand by their numbers. So you can do color cover, front and back of the cover, which sometimes you can make it to a poster because it's got that. If it's saddle stitched like stapled, it's got that. You could do a poster image where it's a 2-page spread, like the old Playboy magazines, if you've ever heard of those. but color all throughout, color cover front and back. That's 100 copies. So as you see, you could put in 1,000 copies here, and you'll get different pricing if you're doing 1,000 copies. Now, they print digitally, and they also print what's called offset. If you see they're printing on Heidelberg Speedmaster, you know what? I don't know if a Speedmaster XL is digital or not. They list different equipment. This is Indigo 7600 color presses. Okay, Speedmaster is an offset press, which means it's a traditional big printing machine that's got 4 different colors it's printing on it. And it's not with digital inks. This is with digital inks on an indigo color press. Okay, so you can ask them directly if you have any issues about, hey, I don't want to print digitally, or I do want to print digitally. You can communicate with them directly and tell you what's the difference. A lot of times, especially for someone who's not a professional connoisseur buyer of printers, you can't really tell the difference. It could be very high quality. This is a very well recommended company. They don't mess around. They don't put out junky books. But you can always print one sample copy of your comic. Or if you see me on Twitter, message me directly and say, can you give me the name of somebody that printed with them? And I will. But I didn't ask permission to for this video, so I'm not gonna tell you publishers that I know. And I haven't used them yet. But what I will tell you is they do good quality. Now, you could also alter. Now, why are these 2 different prices so high? Well, because one is digital printing, this one, that's $4,000. And the one that's around $2,000 is offset. So why would you go with the $4,000 one? Well, you wouldn't. You'd be silly to do that. However, if you went down to, say, 100 copies, or even 500 copies, you would see the only option available is the indigo. Oops. Hey, I didn't do it before, okay? That's why. Don't just listen to me. I mean, yes, listen to me. Subscribe to the channel, very important. Click the bell for notifications. That helps me out. I'm helping you out, so now you're going to help me out. And comment below if this is helpful too, and if you like my funny demeanor. But no, look, I did 500, okay? So at 500, you can print it digitally for $2,200, right? Or offset. Traditional printing for $1,774. In this case, I would go with the offset. I certainly would. Why? Because it's cheaper, and offset is marginally, usually slightly better quality. All right. If you were going to print 400 copies, you could see the difference there. If you were going to go 300 copies, you would say, hey, wait a minute. Why are there 2 options? Well, because there's a lot of extra setup costs with traditional offset printing. So it can be higher quality. It can be cheaper, but only in substantial quantity. So this is not substantial enough quantity. All right. I also want to show you another option here in bindery. Staple or perfect. Staple or perfect. What does that mean? Wouldn't it be perfect to just use staples? No. It's not perfect to just use staples. This is what it means. Staples is your traditional 32-page comic that we expect to see. It's got usually 2 staples on the side. I've seen how these guys do their bindery. It is nice work. Perfect means like a book. Perfect means it's got a really cool high-end looking spine, like The Dark Knight Returns, if you've ever seen that, or a trade paperback that's usually 48 pages or more. What's the smallest number of pages these guys could do and do perfect bind so it would look like a book? I don't know, but let's find out right now. Could they do it with a 32-pager? No, they will not. See the highlight? It's staple only. I want perfect. Adam, you will not have perfect. All right, what if I went to 40 sides, a 40-page comic? Yes, Adam, then you can have it perfect bind. Why would I want it perfect bound if it was a 40-page comic? Why do I want it perfect bound at all? Because it's more of a professional, not professional, but it's more of a high-end presentation. A magazine has staples in it or glue. Perfect bound with a spine, it does have some glue, but perfect bound with a spine is more of a high-end presentation, and it commands a higher price point. So people might pay $25 for a 48-page perfect bound book. It is pricey. That's the limit. But a 48-page stapled comic, I mean, yeah, you could do that. But you're starting to push the limits of reality here. Okay, so perfect bound is more of a high-end book that you can put on a bookshelf. You can print on the spine. You can't do that with a folded, saddle stitched staple comic. Now they have other options on paper here as well. Coated, glossy, uncoated. Their normal standard paper is this satin paper. They have a gloss paper. The paper can sometimes adjust the price a tiny little bit. As you see, this jumped it to a different press. What are they doing? A different press for different paper? Yes, they would do. Honestly, I don't know why it turned from blue to orange, but in any event, this is the whole point. You mess around with it, you screw around with it. Is black and white much cheaper than printing color? Even with digital, for these guys in particular, it's cheaper than color. It's not different on every digital printer, right? These guys for offset in particular, it's going to be much cheaper. We'll try 1,000 to do grayscale. See litho next to the Speedmaster, digital next to where it says Indigo 7600, right? So it is considerably cheaper to do black and white, but not that much cheaper. How about for 2,000 copies? Woo! Well, that's black and white, right? What about, so the cheapest is 2,900, and that's printed litho, which means offset. Standard high-end printing, not digital. Change it to color. 3,500, also litho. So $600 difference, not a major difference. And you can play around with higher numbers. These guys, you can, I would recommend these guys up till 10,000 copies. Beyond 10,000 copies, you probably shouldn't be printing with Mixin, or you need to get additional quotes from other printers. But for someone who's looking at, hey, let me tinker around a little bit, figure out what it would cost for me to publish my own book, be like Adam Post, publishing College of the Dead. College of the Dead 2 is coming soon in full color. Make sure you're signed up for this. I'll put a link in the description below. This book's still in demand and available if you haven't gotten it yet. But in any event, yeah, you can make a lot of different changes and options. Don't let this thing with sides drive you berserk. It drove me berserk for a couple of days. And it just finally, because it can be a little confusing, because usually if you're printing a 32-page comic, it can get a little confusing. Suffice it to say, if you're doing a 32-page comic, it means 32 sides plus this cover. If you're doing a 100-page comic, it's 100 sides, and they want it perfect bound, by the way, because it's hard. There's an upper limit to what you can do with saddle stitch. It won't hold the pages together anymore. So 100 sides, that's a 100-page comic. So you can mess around with this. How many should you print? Just start working with small numbers. Be conservative. And then for yourself, oh, well, it costs this to print 300. Well, what would it cost to print 400? So what's my price on 300? What's the cost for? Okay, that's for a 100-sided digital book. You'll notice if you're doing digital printing, which is short run, 500 or less usually, and you're doing 100 sides, it's going to be $2,700. Look at this for 48 sides. Half the money, which is why I always tell people, listen, if you're just getting started, be conservative. 48 pages, full color, so you can maximize your price point at $25. Perfect bound so you're delivering value. But don't screw around and make it a 100-page book unless you know you're going to sell a lot of them. Otherwise, look at your printing. It's astronomical. It's twice the money. Why? Because it's digital printing. At 3,000 copies, the differential is a little bit less usually. All right, let's test my my knowledge. 100 sides, 3,000 copies, $7,346. Let's look at 48 sides. Is it half? It's not quite half. So your extra cost for extra pages when you're doing more volume is not as expensive. But don't let that fool you. Adding an extra 50 or 100 pages or whatever, 52 pages to get to 100 or even 30 pages, it's not necessarily going to sell more copies of your book, but it will absolutely at least double your cost of printing. You don't need that when you're first starting out because you don't want to overpromise. You want to promise something great, deliver what you promise, and a little bit better, and deliver it on time. And that's the game of learning how to get your prices for your printing. Play around with this. I used to do this when I was first starting out in publishing. Helped me a lot. All right. Again, my book's College of the Dead. You can still get it on Indiegogo. It's in demand. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Make sure you sign up so you find out when College of the Dead 2 is coming out. Full color, going to be a gorgeous 48-page book. And comment below. Let me know if this was helpful to you. I would really like to know that because I want to do more videos like this, but only if it's helping you out. That's what I'm here for. All right. You have a great day. I will see you soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.